Here are 7 essential items that you simply must bring with you on your next track day. Stay to the end for some bonus items that I always bring with me, but you don't necessarily have to. The first thing you're going to need then will be tyre pumps. They come in lots of different forms. You've got the cigarette lighter electric pump, you've got the classic foot pump, and then you've got, this is just a gauge, so for accurate readings of your pressure. I'll get onto that later. So you're going to need something to let the air out when you get there in the morning, because your pressures are going to go up a lot more on track than they would on the road. And then also, when you leave the track and want to go home, you need to pump them back up to a normal road pressure. After the first session, as soon as I'm off track and everything is still hot, I'll go around each corner individually and set the pressures to what I want them to be. So say 36, 37 each corner. Now, the reason for that is different tracks have different loads, so each tyre will increase by a different amount. So generally, your front left will have the biggest increase because it takes the biggest pounding around the track. So if you set them when they're hot straight off the track, you should get a good working pressure in your next sessions. I use this very accurate Unipro gauge. It gives me a precise reading, and anyone who races properly knows the importance of tyre pressures. They can change the characteristics and handling of the car instantly, and it's a fantastic change to make when you're at the track without any mechanical interference needed. And then at the end of the day, you'll need to pump them back up. Next up on the list is torque wrenches. Now, I've got this big Draper one that goes up to 200 Newton meters, but you can also get these smaller, more compact, cheaper Halfords ones like this, but just make sure it goes up to around 100, as that's what you'll need for your wheel nuts. And you're also, of course, going to need your locking wheel nut, because that allows you to do up that last nut and make sure that everyone is secure, because you need to have an even load distribution on the wheel nuts so they can secure the wheel properly. I check them before I go to the track, then also after the first session. I also keep some spare nuts with me at all times, because if one comes loose or the thread gets cross-threaded, you don't want to be caught without one, because that can end your day instantly. Now, your fluids. The two main ones are coolant and engine oil. This is also something that you should check before you go to the track and also after your first session. It's likely that the track is the highest load and temperature your car's experienced, so you want to check that the oil isn't not only overflowed, but it isn't losing any oil under the higher pressure, and make sure you've got things to top it up with, because again, you can go out on low oil, but it is not advised, and that is likely to end your day there. I always take coolant as well, because that is what's keeping your temperatures down and you don't want to be running without it. Next up is cleaning products. Now, these are all windscreen cleaners. When you're at the track, that's the only bit that needs to be clear, so you can see if you're hitting those apexes or if you're absolutely missing them altogether, which can be the case. So I have lots of cloths so that you can just wipe the windscreen once and put them in a bag. You don't have to worry about keeping them clean. Now, the products I use, and these are just my recommendations, they're not endorsed in any way, is Rain-X glass cleaner. Has great hydrophobia, but it takes a little while to apply and buff off, so I don't use that at the track. I use that when I'm washing. And then the two I use at the track are this Worth active foam cleaner, which is very, very cool. And then I have this Autoglim fast glass as well. Now, it's worth getting a dedicated car windscreen cleaner, and I'm not just saying that, it's because the household ones contain substances that can break down the rubber seals around the edges and aren't great for the plastic trim, so it's worth getting a dedicated car one. Nearly there at the end of the list, and up next we have the rather obvious but very important helmet. Now, I use a Bell helmet, but I think it's worth getting something that's quality and comfortable so it doesn't distract you, doesn't rub you, and you know that you're properly safe. Of course, a hands device is optional if you've got harnesses, and obviously if you don't have harnesses, there's no need or point for a hands device. I also like to wear a balaclava just because I find it more comfortable, no other reason than that. And I also wear gloves because it gives my hand a bit more grip and makes the steering wheel feel nicer. Again, no fireproof regulation reason for it, I just find them more comfortable because it's what I'm used to. It's important to read the rules for your track day before you go, because quite often they will say you need long sleeve t-shirts, especially in open top cars. Generally, you'll always want a long sleeve top anyway, and long trousers. So that's an important thing to read before you go there. Next, we have a towing eye. Most track days are going to require this, not all, but again, something it's worth reading the regulations for. Now, I just use a metal one. You can get toe straps, you can get different thread sizes. So if you can't find the one for your car, make sure you check what size it is and how long it needs to be to protrude from the bumper as you need it to. They can generally be attached at the front or the rear, so it's up to you. But as well, you might end up having to pull off some plastic covering like I do on my cars, so make sure you know how to do that before you're stuck at the track and you can't prise it off. Now we're at number 7 on the list, and after this I'll give you some bonus items as well. So number 7 is a driving licence. Now I have a UK driving licence, and of course it applies in Europe and all over the world really, but I have been caught out here, so make sure you have your licence with you, or at least you have a good photo of the front and back, because that should do. Now for the bonus items. These are for those who are more mechanically minded or who are taking it a bit more seriously. So first up we have, of course, a jack, such as this one, which is small, compact, and it allows you to lift the car up and fiddle with suspension settings if that's what you do. If you think something's broken, it lets you get a better look, and that's really important for anyone who wants to work on the car. We also have, of course, a universal socket set. So this has a bunch of spanners, sockets, imperial and metric, so it accounts for different ages of cars you might be working on. Lots of ratchet wrenches like this, and that as well is your sort of go-to all-rounder kit. You might not have the specialist tools you need in a socket set like this one from just Halfords, but it gives you the basics that you want to nut and bolt, you want to check things under the engine bay. This is exactly what you need to be bringing. Next up we have the old but gold cable ties and duct tape, used for securing things in the cockpit such as dash cam cables, phone chargers, anything that's loose, and also if you've got a bit of bodywork that you want to cover up or is flapping about in the wind, you're going to need these. Then we have, of course, an action camera like a GoPro and a suction cup if you want to boast to your mates about your amazing lap, or you can always choose to delete it as well if you're not that proud of it. You can capture those code brown moments, those fun moments, and get it all from a nice secure position if you've got a suction cup. And most places will require a suction cup with a tether in case, say, the glass splits, then it's going to break suction and you have a tether to make sure it doesn't hit you in the face, that kind of thing. Fun. So make sure you've got suction cup, action camera, and some tethers. Last but not least, we have a stopwatch. This is mine, again a Unipro product, lets me time 4 different people, and because I'm, it's fair to say, quite competitive, I like to time lots of other cars and myself, not when I'm going round obviously, but this allows someone else to time me, and this is invaluable if you just have to know if you're the fastest person there. To see how I changed the dampers on a classic Mini Cooper S and transformed the ride with racing driver Adam Christodoulou, press here. If you learned anything from this video, I'd really appreciate a like and a subscribe, and share it with your mates if you think they'd enjoy it too. See you in the next one.